Today's episode is going to be about a tire review of the Bridgestone Battlax AX41 motorcycle tire. So today's tire is the Battlax AX41, made by Bridgestone. These things are considered a 40 street, 60% off-road motorcycle tire. Love these things. But there is one thing that I hate. Let's get to it. So let's talk about these things. These things have kind of a similar pattern to the Shinko 805, 804 that I reviewed earlier. And also they kind of have the Continental TKC 80 design and look a little bit. They have very blocky treads, good for scooping mud, good through going through rocks and sand. The front tire is really deep and very good. It has a very symmetrical pattern. I can tell you these things handle excellent on anything that you throw at them. They handle great on the road. I mean, this is almost like a sport tire on the road. I have leaned these things to the very max edge of these tires. Let's see if we can get a close-up of that. On both the rear and the front, that is worn all the way to the very edge with a little nipple still on there. You still go to it, but not all the way. So you can see the rubber pilling up right there if you can. But you could drive these things into the ground all the way side to side, and these things will handle anything on the road. I was super impressed with them in every aspect, even wet riding. Now, when it comes to knobby-ish tires in the wet, I think these things don't quite handle like a sport bike tire would when it's wet. You still have to be a little cautious, but I've never really had a lot of slipping. Maybe when it was brand new, I did turn out of a parking lot, a 90-degree, got on it a little bit, and it did spin a little bit. But again, that was within the first 500 miles of the tire. Actually, probably less than 150 miles of that first tire. But otherwise, never had an issue with it whatsoever. Love these things on the road. Handled amazing. Let's talk about a little bit of the downside on the road. This tire right here, worn out pretty significantly. The mileage I got on this one was 2,800 miles. It can go a little farther than this. And I'll admit I was riding pretty rough on this. I took a trip into Texas from Louisiana. I had these things on the motorcycle. I only had one set of rims at the time. And these were my primary riding tires. I rode in, and actually every stop that I had to stop at, because the gas tank would only allow me to go about 200 miles. When I pulled into the gas station, I had a faint smell of burning rubber. Couldn't figure out where it was coming from. Everything looked fine. Nothing was rubbing against the exhaust. It wasn't my boot melting or anything like that. But by the time I got home and I continued smelled it and I finally looked at the tires, you could tell where the burning rubber was coming from. It's these tires. Never had a problem with them with grip or traction or feeling mushy or anything like that. But I can tell you these things will eat away at the highway. And again, that's probably why it's considered a 40% street, 60% off-road motorcycle tire. So I have to give it to them. They knew about this. Now, so there's the two negatives, I guess, are you'll smell a burning rubber smell if you go long distance, highway, very hot environments, and they won't last very long. But I can tell you, these things will last probably 3,000 miles. I could have pushed that easily another 200 miles, not a big deal. But man, they are a little thin here. All right, let's again talk about longevity. So the rear is the one that's mainly going to go after about 2,000, 3,000, 2,800 to 3,000, maybe 4,000 miles. But this front one can last probably a whole nother back tire. So you could probably do a 2-for-1 change out on this motorcycle. The front tread looks pretty good. There is a little bit of shedding of the rolling. That's not really it's not a crack or anything on that front surface. That's actually just rolling of the rubber around the front edge. Let's talk about the off-road use. I loved them so much off-road that I bought another set. I eventually got another set of rims for my motorcycle, and this is my off-road set. I'm using these exclusively for my off-road stuff. Now, granted, there are some, roads you have to hit to get sometimes off-road, and these things are going to take me to it. I love these tires. It handles so well, so superbly. Sand, mud. Again, you get a big adventure tour and some mud. It is what it is, right? So unless you have a big paddle on the back of it, which these kind of act like paddles, right? They're kind of paddle-ish light. For the most part, you're probably going to get bogged down. But they handled excellently. Going over things, I can say that a negative from off-roading is that when you deflate them, they really don't get that squishy. They're still a really hard tire. They're still kind of too much road still to be the perfect off-road tire. So these things, they still stay pretty stiff off-road, even though people say that these sidewalls are actually fairly soft and malleable. You don't get a lot of tire flex from what I see. I could still spin it trying to kind of wheelie over something like a stick or a log or something like that, and it still spins out quite a bit. So I'm not getting as much tire flex as if I were to have a true knobby. So there is a little take and give with this tire. But in general, I loved these things on the road. I love them off-road. It feels when the first time I rode them down a dirt road, they felt like I was on a dry, clean pavement down the dirt road. These things grip significantly. Love them to death. Even the front tire, you always complain, like example, the Shinko 804s. They wash out a little bit with some dirt, some gravel, some sand. But this tire felt like it stayed solid the whole way, and very predictable, great road and off-road feedback. Love them to death. Again, one of the biggest downsides, 2,800 miles here. You could probably get that upwards if you weren't continuously on the throttle, maybe up to 5,000. I've heard of some people getting it to about 5,000, and they're comparing it to the TKC 80s. But I think these have a leg up on the TKC 80s with their abilities both on the road and off the road. These feel significantly better. But again, you're looking at mileage problems. So 3,000 miles, which is I think what most people are getting typically out of the TKC 80s. Love these tires. I see just very mild cupping right here, and I don't know if we could see mild cupping. What I was running them on the road, I'm running about 32, 33 front, and then I will run about 35, 34 rear. These tires supposedly have a inflation limit of 35 psi, as per the manual or on the side of the tire, something like that. Love them to death. Again, they don't last very long, but I'm gonna get another pair. Love them to death. Awesome tire. Just remember, low mileage, but handle exceptionally, especially for a very off-roady 40 road, 60 off-road tire. Good review. Forgot to mention one thing. These tires, pretty pricey. I think I paid $350 or $380, I think, for the pair. I came off the Shinko 804 and 805s before that, and I was paying $209, $250 for a pair on that. This is $100 extra of money for a lot less mileage, but the ability off-road is significantly better. Again, it's because the design of the tire being a 40 street, 60 off-road. Love them to death. Don't have a lot of bad things to say about them besides mileage. And long distance highway riding is, it could totally be done, but you're just going to melt these treads away.